Hello and welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I'm so glad that you joined me for the show today. This is going to be a really interesting topic and one that came, of course, to me from you. I get all my ideas and suggestions from feedback, from comments, from solutions that people are seeking. So this one is kind of unique, though. Today's topic, of course, is how to appear on a national news or talk show and be a star, or at least not embarrass yourself and get asked back. And this is one of those things that's kind of a unique area. You never really think about this topic until it happens. You get the call, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, I'm totally ready. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. This is going to be a real big success. And then you think, wait a minute. I've never been on one of these big national live shows, and what do I say? Who do I talk to? How does this happen? What if I screw up? And we tend to think if I screw up, unlike maybe some of the other things we do, everybody will see it. And that's not going to be a good day. So what we're going to do here is sort of walk through, you've been successful, you've gotten to the point that people want you on the show. That's a whole different topic for other programs that we have to address how to get to that point. But you're here. You're at the point. You got the call or the email. They want you. And you're excited. That's fantastic. Now, what are the basics that you need to know, sort of a mini boot camp, so you can appear and at least not screw up so badly that you're banned from the show for life, which is, I think, many of our fears. So let's walk back here, and this, again, is really specifically looking at those big national shows that are usually live or at least tape delayed, and you're worried because there's not really a safety net, and you want to make sure that you don't mess up. The beginning of this, I think, is that we want to refocus. At our organization, we focus on practicing the joyful art of business. And sometimes I kind of feel like I repeat myself explaining, what does that mean? Well, it really basically means that business is something where, creative people can apply their imagination. And that's what art is about. You're applying your skill and your imagination and your vision, and you're creating something. And we do that in business all the time. People have inventions. People create new businesses that didn't exist, new markets. And so not just that we are able to be creative and be someone who practices the art of business, because that's part of it, but we need to do that in a way that it brings us a sense of joy, that it's joyful to us. And joyful, the way that we utilize it in my organization, is we're not necessarily saying that we're having fun all the time or that we're laughing, but the joy comes from a sense of pleasure. That could be that we've achieved our goal, that we have seen a project through to the end, that we've been tenacious, that it's completed, but it's whatever it is that makes us individually feel joyful about practicing this art of business that we do. And that is a whole approach to life, so that our business, our relationships, and our personal lives are enhanced. We want to look at this holistically, and we want to make sure that we are living the quality of life that's appropriate, for us as individuals, and that we're getting the most out of this experience. So one of our basic fundamental techniques that we utilize to practice the joyful art of business is we always want to approach a situation and think about it from the perspective of the other person. And this can be tough, because a lot of us who are very focused and we're seeking solutions, we tend to think about ourselves. We tend to think about our wants and our needs. We tend to think about what will make us feel joyful or that we've met our goals. We tend to think about our perspective, and that is absolutely the most effective way for us to approach interactions with other people, because it isn't about us. It is not about us. And that can be hard, because we think, well, no, it is about us. It's about our career and about our business and about our goals and about our passions. No, it really isn't. In an interaction with a client, with any other entity, now there's another party involved. And for us to be in an optimal position to maximize the results, we really need to stop and force ourselves to clear our minds and to think about this situation from the perspective of the other person. This is one of the fundamental techniques in practicing the joyful art of business, and it's just extremely important in this program. Because here we're talking about, okay, great, I'm going to be on this big, fancy, exciting show, all these shows that are national and live, people have heard of, it's exciting, I'm wow. But the deal is that at this point it is not about us. And as we go through this program, we need to think about, at every step, the other entities involved. So, okay, here we are. We've gotten the call or the email. We are super excited. We are pumped up. This is great. We're going to be on a big national show. I'm excited. Woo! I'm celebrating. All right. That was step one. Step two, I'm going to step back, and I'm going to clear my mind, and I'm going to remember this is not about me. Let's repeat that. This is not about me. And I understand there may be some pushback, and people may think, well, it is about me. They called me. I'm the one that they want on the show. That's the whole point. No, but it isn't, because you want this to go well, meaning that at least you don't embarrass yourself, and that you hopefully create relationships where you can go back on these shows and you can grow somewhere with it. So this wasn't the only time that you had this opportunity, but it's the opening part of a relationship that's going to be part of your career and professional and life experiences going forward. So for that to happen, you've got to step back. It was about you up until the point where you got the invitation. Now it's really about maximizing this. This is a business relationship. This is an organization that's a business. You're now part of this dynamic, and you want to get the outcome where hopefully the door is open in some way for you to potentially have a future relationship with this entity, either with this show or this corporation or even the specific show producer or booker. So step one, I was excited. I was elated. It happened. Woo! Step two, take a step back. This is not about me. All right? I'm focused in that. I understand it's not about me. It's about putting myself in the position of the other entities. These are going to be people, and now I need to start walking through step three and how do I apply that. So we're going to do a little bit of vocabulary here and sort of walk through. In general, shows can be different, but in general, this is how they work. These big national shows, many of them are live, or they're live. Some of them are literally live. Like as it's happening, it's going to appear across the country or across the world. Sometimes with a little slight delay in case there's some sort of wardrobe malfunction or something. So a lot of them are going to be really live. Other shows are going to be live where it's recorded right there exactly as it happens, and then it'll air later. There might be a couple of hours delay, but you have to be now in step three. We're going to apply. It's not about me, and we're going to walk through the framework. But try to keep it simple like we always do, right? Keeping things simple gives us a framework for success. It's not about me. It's about these other entities, and I'm going to apply my really easy, kind of old school. I learned it in writing and journalism. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Just the basics. So you found out that this is an opportunity. Normally these opportunities happen really quickly. So you might be going through step one. Yay, I found out about this. Step two, it's not about me. Step three, now I have to apply a framework to get a good outcome so that I can create a positive relationship potential in the future. And I'm going to do that by thinking about the other entity, and I'm going to do it within an easy framework, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Typically in these shows, there are a couple of different moving parts. Typically, of course, there's going to be some sort of corporate entity, usually that owns the show. Within that, that's a business. Within that business, there's going to be a unit that usually is that show. Within that unit, there's going to be a hierarchy like at any other business. There's probably going to be a couple of people at the top. The host of the show usually is going to be part of that leadership hierarchy. The executive producers, the very top people who are calling the shots. And then as you move down, you're going to deal with people who, producers or people who kind of make things happen on these shows. This is, of course, someone who's not been on the inside, but I've seen this from the outside. So there's a whole level of producers. There's a very top person who's maybe an executive producer who is calling the shots, like the CEO of that organization. And then there's different levels of subordinate producers on the show. And all the way down to someone who produces maybe just a segment on that show or an aspect of the show. And then there are going to be people who are called bookers. A booker is going to be somebody whose task is really to help acquire the talent and get that slot filled, because we've got to, thinking about it from the side of the organization, the other side. The booker, who is the booker? The booker's job is to book people. You got to get, people on the air, and that's what their job is. So let's do our who, what, when, where, why, and how analysis. The booker has to book people. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get a live show on the air. Often these shows run 5 days a week. So just think about the pressure. So for the person who's the guest, it's exciting. It's like, wow, this is a big opportunity. This is going to be so much fun. I can't believe it. Wow. And that's great. But from the other side, these people do this every single day, and it's a huge amount of pressure to fill live television 5 days a week. Just think about that. So now I'm thinking, okay, the booker's job, they've got to get people on the show, and they've got to do this every single day. Is there an element of the win? Is there a time factor? Yeah. You're thinking about it from the perspective of the booker. They're under immense pressure. So from the moment that you get a contact and someone's trying to ask about availability for a show, clearly we would have handled this in another, topic, but you had to have responded quickly. Because if you don't respond and you don't have your act together with your business, and they can't find someone who's either representing you or you to say, yes, I'm available, book me, they're going to go down the list and get somebody else, because that show is happening that day. And again, this is not about you. So there's a huge pressure. Time is extremely important. They're pressed for today, and they're always worried about tomorrow, and they're always worried about next week, and they're just running like that with adrenaline. So who, what, when, where. If you are going to be in studio is where you're physically going to be in the same place as the host and the camera people and the crew and the show. Usually those are going to be big cities like LA or New York or Atlanta, depending on what type of show it is. So in studio, then that's a whole different set of pressure, and you need to think through that part of it. They're going to be really worried about you physically being in the correct space. Oftentimes you can do these shows from satellite locations, more so than new shows than the purely entertainment, like a late night talk show, where those you have to be there in studio. But for a lot of the cable news shows, you can do it from a satellite location, so you'll be there on screen with the person, but you're not in the same space. Then they need to worry about getting you to a local satellite location so that you're there and ready to go and mic'd up and prepared. So I'm thinking about it from the booker's perspective. All of this means when you talk to the booker, think about that. Think about the fact that they're trying to get this done. They've got to get the show confirmed. They're under huge time pressure because the show's got to go today. They're going to have a geographic element to this that they're concerned about, meaning they need to get your butt somewhere. You need to either be on a plane, making sure that you're confirmed, you're getting to the right city, or that you're going to be in a limo at a certain time, and you're going to be at the studio ready to go at a certain time. And they're going to need you there, obviously, in advance of when the show is going to actually start taping or airing. So when you're talking to the booker, think about all of these things. So you want to be quick. Get to the point. Yes, I'm available. Yes, absolutely, I can be, at the studio at such and such time. A limo can pick me up at this address. You need to have your information, and you need to not be kind of slow, and because people are in a hurry. And it's not anything, again, it's not about you, it's about them. Make their job easy. One of the, again, fundamental techniques that we use to practice the joyful art of business, you want to make it easy for other people to do their job. Easy. Because then, you know what? They appreciate it, even if they don't say it. And they remember, wow, that person was easy to work with. That was nice. And the simplest way and the most powerful way to do this is to think through the perspective of that other person. That's what we're doing right now. So for that booker, you need to be immediate. You need to respond. Once you go through that process, there are oftentimes that you're going to do what's called a pre-interview, especially for the news shows. And you've got to be flexible again. So if they throw out a topic, then you need to be ready to go. You need to be focused. You need to be ready to give them some ideas. Sometimes these pre-interviews are going to be on the phone when you're talking to somebody, and you need to be ahead of time thinking through, okay, what possibly could it be? Remember, whatever the show tone is, so if the show tone is, high energy, you need to be high energy in the pre-interview, because what you want to do, again, is think about the perspective of that person. They're trying to make sure in the pre-interview kind of what you're going to say and what you're going to be like on the air, because just like you're nervous and excited, so are they. You want to create a relationship where potentially there'll be a future opportunity to work together. They want to make sure that they look good. This is their job every day. So in the pre-interview, don't just sort of take that as a throwaway. You need to perform, to a certain element and kind of give them whatever it is that you're going to give on that show, whether you're going to be a little aggressive or assertive, you're a little sarcastic, you're a comedian, you're funny. Give them some of that so that they know, okay, great, this person is prepped and ready to go. And also think sound bites. A lot of us who go into these types of shows that aren't from that background, we need to think about the perspective, again, of the other person, and you need to be succinct and concise and speak in sound bites. Oftentimes, some fields, like maybe professors, academics, lawyers a lot of times, we want to talk. We want to explain it. We want to provide context. We want to make it clear that there's exceptions and that, there are no guarantees and anything is possible. Well, that's all true, but think through. This is a live show where there are very, few precious minutes. And you need to get in there, say what you're going to do, make it impactful, make it easy to remember, and then move on. This is not a lecture. This is also not a stand-up performance where you've got a whole bunch of time to work with an audience and to warm them up and to take them somewhere. You don't have that type of time. I mean, if you're really lucky, you're going to have a few minutes, and that's going to be right on. So there's not going to be time to kind of, build. You need to jump right in there at full speed. So working with the producer, working with the booker, always thinking, who are they? What are they trying to do? Is there a time constraint? When? Is there a geographical restraint? Where? Why are they doing this? It's their job. And again, we just talked about it's their job. They want to look good. They want to be successful. Everyone else has their own dreams that they're trying to achieve. You want to be part of that success by showing them you make it easy for them to do their job. And think about it. A lot of times bookers want to move up, producers want to move up, and you want to be part of that success, showing like, oh, great, that was a great guest, they were prepared, their energy was there, it was a great segment, great show. That's what you want. Fortunately, what the other person wants and what you want overlap quite a bit. Now, again, this is a focus here. We're practicing the joyful art of business, so we're thinking of this from a business perspective or long term. This wouldn't apply if you were going on a show with some specific, emotional or personal agenda where you had some sort of other message you were trying to get across. That would be totally different. Because then you would be just trying to, grab a few minutes to kind of get out there and say what you want to say. But this is different. Here we're talking about somebody who's, as part of their business, as part of their life, integrating media appearances as part of that. So we've thought through the who, what, when, where, why. Of course, why do you think they're doing this? It's their job. They have dreams. They have goals. And the how. So the hows are the basics. Ask questions. I know the very first live show I ever did, I wasn't even sure where to look. Do I look at the camera? The very first show I did when I was in studio, do I look at the host that's asking me the question? Do I look at the camera? So I asked. People want to give you answers. But think through this. Even if you only have, a few minutes or an hour, I sit there and think through, okay, when I get there, where am I going to sit? Who am I going to talk to? So I always ask. I've done shows, a lot of the satellite shows, you're looking right into a camera. So you don't look at a monitor, which is showing the actual show in real time. You want to go ahead and look at a camera so you don't actually see anybody. So you're going to be focusing on listening skills, and then you're going to look right in the camera just like you're talking to a person. But always ask and make sure you understand how the setup is for that location. I've also done in-studio work. I've done in-studio work with robotic cameras, which is awesome, where they'll actually tell you, okay, you're still going to look at the camera, even though the hosts are like there in the same room with you, but you're not sitting physically right next to them and talking to them, like at a table, they're sitting in a space and you're sitting in like another set space, and there's a robotic camera, and they're going to tell you when to talk to the camera and follow the instructions. But ask. I worked in studio where I'm on the same set. Like a national morning show, you're on the same set with everybody, and I asked, and they told me, okay, ignore the cameras. Don't even look at the cameras. Just sit there. You're on the couch or, sitting there talking to the host, and just sit there and talk to the host like you would in any other conversation. Don't worry about the cameras, and they're going to get all the shots and the angles. So you need to ask. That's the how part, because you don't know. You don't need to be an expert on, how to put together a television show, but you need to understand where you're supposed to sit, where you're supposed to look. Okay? And then you need to understand the tone of the show. Ask the producers. Ask the bookers. If you're not familiar with the show, and that does happen where sometimes you get booked on a show where maybe you really haven't seen it that much, then you need to ask. Is it something, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you we want high energy, or no, we really want you to, don't interrupt, let somebody else finish a thought, or they'll say to you, hey, jump in. We want you to interrupt. And then listen, and then remember, it's not about you. And you're thinking it through from the perspective of the other person, right? All the basics. And as you do that, it'll help you come up with a tool for success and a path. So, when you cut to the chase and you tell them where your availability is, when you explain to them exactly what time you're going to be in a seat ready to go, either at the studio, in the green room. The green room, of course, is going to be like the place where they hold you before you actually go onto the set to do your show, and sometimes there'll be snacks or drinks there. For the big shows, we'll have makeup artists there. So just ask, and then always be really direct with your information. If people seem short with you, maybe it's like, oh, my goodness, they seem really short. They're not short with you. They're producing these shows every day, and they're under huge amounts of pressure, and they have dreams, and they have goals, and they want to be able to accomplish their goals. And you want to be part of that. So just if they're speaking quickly, you need to write down what they're saying or make a note or have somebody else take notes, and then you need to go ahead and get to your point. Don't be the stumbling block in their day. And don't play games with people. Again, this is not about you. It's about that show and you creating a relationship with them to show that you're a partner in success. So, work with them and be flexible. When you get to some of these ideas, the hosts of these shows, I have found invariably are extremely professional, cordial, and polite. Are they there to be your new best friend? No. But they often will, speak to you before the show or reach out to you before the show, even if it's just, for a comment or two. And then when, of course, the show hits, the reason why these people are hosts is because they are extremely good at what they do. And they're able to perform at a very high level consistently, and don't worry, they're going to know where they're going with it. Again, it's their show. I've actually sat on shows as part of a panel or a guest and listened to other people on that show try to attack the host or maybe, challenge them. I don't really understand that. If you want your own show, then make that a goal and work on it. And do everything that you can to make that a reality. But while you're in, someone else's business, respect that, respect the fact that that's their business. I'm always grateful and happy. Does that mean that I agree with all of the individual perspectives or editorials of all the different shows I've been on? No, but it's not about that. From my perspective, it's about me being able to have a platform, to have a voice, to share my experience and expertise and build my business. And I like to work well with people, and I enjoy it. I enjoy live television. It's fun to me. But you need to think through these things. And I always am very deferential and respectful. You're a guest in their business, and I think you should act that way, and I think you should be, warm and professional. And that's just my personal opinion, focusing on it's not about you and thinking through from the perspective of the other person. But, people do whatever they want to. And certainly I've seen a lot of very entertaining behavior, and that's okay. You always want to remember that most of these shows, they'll have a specific, they'll call it a hit time. And basically it's telling you, exactly when you're scheduled to appear. And usually you're only going to be on for just, a few short minutes. They're often, especially on the news shows and cable talk shows, they'll have blocks, which are basically like a quarter hour of each show or sometimes every 10 minutes, and they'll tell you where you're going to be. So you'll basically know, my hit time is, 25 minutes after the hour. Great. There are some shows that I've done that are live that they do not have hit times. They have you come, and you're there, and you just sort of wait. And it really is exciting because you don't know when they're going to come to you, if they're going to come to you. They usually come to you. And then the host just sort of orchestrates who they go to and when they go to that person. And it's exhilarating, but you have to be really focused the whole time because you're not exactly sure. At any minute they could turn to you and boom, there are, millions of eyes on you and you have to be ready. But, ask these questions. Ask if there's a hit time. If there isn't, then ask them if there's a block that you're going to be in. If there isn't, then just ask them, is it something where you need to be prepared for the whole show? When you are there in the beginning and you're in your chair, if you're doing a satellite or if you're in studio, make sure that you pay attention to the mic check and that the lighting. Make sure you feel good because it's supposed to be fun, which ties in, of course, because we're practicing the joyful art of business, so this should be enjoyable. You should be, I think, a little bit excited, but you want this to be hopefully an opening salvo for a successful relationship. There's something called a chyron, which is basically the graphics that run on these shows on the TV screen when you're watching the show. And if you have anything specifically you want to be, titled a certain way, or you want to promote a certain, author of a certain book or something, ask about that if there's anything you can do about the chyron. Again, you gave talking points, in your pre-interview. Stick to that. Again, I know, I guess it can be maybe, exciting for people thinking, I said I was going to talk about this, but hey, I'm going to go in a new direction. Okay, maybe. I don't know. It depends on who you are and what the context of the show is. Maybe that works. Maybe if you're a comedian and it's a really, open, flexible show. But, a lot of times people don't like surprises. So the whole point of having the pre-interview is so they have an idea of where you're going to go and where they're going to cover so that the host is ready. I would stick with that. Of course, you want to be flexible and understand these hosts can go in different directions. Sometimes they're very, it's almost exactly what the pre-interview was. Some shows it's not. Some shows they might go in a different direction and ask you something. So you want to, I always, before I have a show, have, maybe, half a dozen ideas ready to go. That if something comes up, that I'm ready to go with, a quick story, a joke, something that's in the news or just something so that I've got somewhere to go if it's sort of one of those minutes like, oh my goodness, that was unexpected and the cameras are on me and the lights are on me. So here was where we were going in this show. We were trying to focus on how do I go on a big national, talk show or cable news show and become a star. I'm not necessarily sure, if we're going to become stars. That's always relative. But I do think we can work hard and we can let producers, bookers, and hosts of shows know, yeah, we're professional, we're organized, we're timely, we're reliable. And we're fun. I mean, give a good show. So, you want to, match the tone of the show, but if it's high energy, you're high energy. If it's a little bit laid back, you're a little bit, more laid back. You want to make sure that you're there and meeting kind of the needs of that particular show and host and organization. You should have fun. You should feel good about it. And you should have been really easy to work with, right? So no crazy demands about your makeup or your lighting or anything like that. You're easy to work with because remember, I'm practicing the joyful art of business, and a fundamental part of that is I'm making it easy for other people to do their jobs. And when we do this within this context and made it easy and tried to develop a rapport, because we've thought about the booker's situation. We've thought about that producer situation. We've thought about the host situation. You'd be surprised how easy it is that people want to work with somebody who is committed, who is fun, who delivers, and who seems to be like they enjoy their work. It's amazing how consistent it is around the world in all different fields. People like to be around people who are, enjoyable to be around. So if you're nasty or you have issues or you're rude or, you're angry or you're demanding, yeah, maybe you can pull that off on the show, but I'll tell you what, other people remember it. They do. They won't ever say it to your face. But why would you do that? why would you be anything other than appreciative of the fact that you have a wonderful life, you've got opportunities like this in your career, and that you want to just go out there, enjoy it, make the best of it, and potentially have an opportunity to work together in the future? I appreciate you joining me today for Solutions with Courtney Anderson. Always come to CourtneyAnderson.com. Give us your solutions, suggestions, ideas if you want to be a guest on a show, and join us again next time.